So you're the pitiful hero they sent to stop me. I, Dr. Proton, will soon rule the world.
You're wrong, Proton Breath. I'll be done with you and still have time to watch ancient DOS games. Well, after a bit of a break and getting some preliminary work done on my next game project, it's time to get back into some ancient DOS games. And to kick off the second season, I figured it'd be good to pick a game that pretty much everyone's heard of. Duke Nukem. Now, as many of you know, Duke Nukem Forever was finally released recently, then bashed half to death by reviewers and gamers alike, then tossed into a burning trash compactor filled with rusty needles and razor blades, only to be appreciated by those who not only bought the PC version, but can enjoy the raunchy humor and know how to play both classic and modern first-person shooters. But Duke didn't start life spouting one-liners and blasting aliens in gory ways. He actually started life jumping platforms, blasting robots, and collecting balloons. Yeah, I sometimes wonder how the transition even happened, but let's not get too far ahead of ourselves, cause we got some game stats to look at first. Duke Nukem was created and released by Apogee in 1991 and is a one-player run-and-gun platformer. It features EGA 320x216 color graphics, but only supports the PC speaker for sound effects. Mind you, the PC speaker effects in this game are quite good for non-digitized. As for its release date, it's still shareware, but getting a copy of this game is extraordinarily easy. Heck, you may even have the game already without even realizing it. You see, the full versions of both Duke Nukem and Duke Nukem 2 can both be found on the CD for Duke Nukem 3D. So if you actually have the actual Duke Nukem 3D CD, there you go. You can actually get a physical copy of the Duke Nukem 3D disc for about $5 to $10 from places like Amazon or eBay, if you don't mind paying for shipping too. Otherwise, the simplest way to get the original Duke Nukem is to buy a direct download from the 3D Realms website at www.3drealms.com for about $6. Before I go on, I want to point out that there's a little bit of confusion when it comes to the name of this game. The very first version of Duke Nukem spelled Duke's last name as Nukem, but there was already a character with that name from the Captain Planet cartoon series. So when the game was upgraded to version 2.0, all references to Duke's last name were respelled Nukum. However, it turned out in the long run that this renaming was completely unnecessary. Thus, when Duke Nukem 2 came out, his name was once again respelled to Nukem, and that's how it's been ever since. Now, there's actually a story to this game, but as you might expect, it's paper thin. Basically, back in 1997, the evil Dr. Proton had taken control of one of Earth's largest cities with an army of tech bots, which he created through his underworld connections. So the self-proclaimed hero, Duke Nukem, is hired by the CIA to find Dr. Proton, destroy his tech bots, and ultimately bring the evil doctor to justice. To ensure Duke of the greatest chance of survival, the CIA arms him with an untested experimental nuclear pistol. And that's about it, really. You can't get much simpler than that. Being a shareware game, Duke Nukem was actually divided up into 3 episodes: Shrapnel City, Mission Moonbase, and Trapped in the Future. The first of which was the shareware episode you could freely share with anyone, and the latter 2 being the full version episodes you had to pay for. However, like many of Apogee's shareware titles, the full version episodes didn't really introduce anything new over the shareware version, just new levels and a few story elements sprinkled in. So really, if you want to get an idea of how this game plays, you only need to download the shareware version, because the full version is just more of the same. Harder, but more of the same. What the game boils down to, though, is a very solid platformer that plays very well. The controls in this game are spot on, and rarely are you going to lose any health or miss a shot because the controls are being stupid. This is kind of surprising, considering that this is another DOS game where all of the movement happens in half-block increments. So you can actually move around pretty darn quickly, and you really do need fast reflexes to survive in this game. But you also need to take your time, because moving too fast is a surefire way to get yourself killed. Thankfully, you not only have a life bar, but nothing in the game hits for more than a single point of health, and you survive at 0 health for 1 more hit. So you can be hit a total of 8 times and still survive, but that 9th hit is going to make you dead. Granted, death in this game just simply forces you back to the start of a level, resetting your score back to where it was in the process. And you have unlimited lives, so there's no worries there either. There's also tons of health restoring power-ups littered through every level. All that said though, you're going to take a ton of damage as you play. The enemies generally move very fast, with one obvious exception. Some of them can even shoot at you, and the shots can be extremely difficult to dodge since you can't duck. And while the enemies have fairly large hitboxes, well, so do you. Actually, every level is loaded with stuff to collect, a lot of which is going to be stored in question mark boxes. The color of the box is very important. Red boxes have health restoring power-ups, blue boxes have score increasing power-ups, and gray boxes are interesting. Gray boxes can have extremely important items such as circuit boards and extra firepower for your pistol. They can have dynamite inside, which will explode across the floor and hurt you if you don't get out of the way, or they can just, well, be empty. This is also one of the few games I know of where the power-ups themselves can be interactive. For instance, there's 2 kinds of health restoring power-ups, soda cans and turkey legs, both of which normally just restore a single point of health. If you shoot a soda can, it rockets up into the sky and you can then collect it for 1,000 points, but you won't get the health benefit. If you shoot a turkey leg, you somehow magically roast it into a big chunk of turkey, which restores 2 health points instead of 1. There's also a bunch of memorabilia objects you can pick up for points, such as pennant flags, Duke Nukem floppy disks, footballs, joysticks, but the most valuable items you can collect for points are the Helium Balloons. They're worth 10,000 points each, but there's a couple catches. Firstly, they rise into the air once released, so you have to catch them quickly. And secondly, considering the interactive nature of the power-ups, you don't want to pop the balloons with your gun because then you don't get any points for them. It's not uncommon in this game to find balloons stashed around groups of difficult enemies, thus forcing you to get creative if you want to safely collect the balloons without destroying them in the ensuing firefight. Of course, this is all just related to getting a high score for the sake of bragging rights. Though, what I find interesting is that because of the persistent nature of the game and the fact that nothing's random and nothing respawns, every episode has a theoretical maximum score that could be reached. I don't know what these scores are, but I imagine someone out there has managed to hit them. If I find out more about that, I'll post the info on my website below this video. Speaking of scoring, between each level you're sometimes awarded secret bonuses, each one given a number from 1 to 7, and each one being worth 10,000 points. Not every bonus can be obtained from every level, but here's how you get them. To get bonus number 1, just shoot every camera in the level. For bonus number 2, take no damage, which is an extremely hard bonus to get. Bonus number 3, make all the Acme signs fall down. Bonus number 4, shoot all of the large missiles that you find in some of the levels. Bonus number 5, collect the D, U, K, and E letters in the right order, which, by the way, is worth 10,000 points on its own, so doing that is technically worth 20,000 points. Bonus number 6, destroy the Snake Tech Bot. Now, this robot's basically made up of numerous white and blue orbs which fly around in a pattern really quickly, and you'll know it when you see it. Lastly, for bonus number 7, get rid of all of the purple bunny tech bots, either by shooting them for 200 points each, or by touching them, which is worth 5,000 points, but will get you hurt in the process. There's a bunch of permanent power-ups you'll come across too, which you get to keep for the rest of an episode once you obtain them. These include guns, which power up your nuclear pistol so you can have more shots on the screen at a time, jump boots, which allow you to jump higher, a robotic hand that will allow you to trigger handprint scanners to cause bridges to form, and a grappling hook, which allows you to cling to certain kinds of ceilings and even the undersides of conveyor belts. I also want to quickly note that if you don't have the robotic hand, don't try using the hand scanners. You'll regret it. And that pretty much covers all the basics of Duke Nukem. Most of the enemies can be destroyed fairly easily, with the exception of the living flames, and each enemy has their own little quirk to them, such as the miniature flying drones that can actually safely be destroyed by jumping directly on top of them, or the helicopters which will try to crash into you once you've caused enough damage to them. Really, I only have a handful of short hints to help you get through this game. Firstly, there's no time limit, so take your time. Things happen in this game very fast, so the less things you have to deal with in each moment, the better. Secondly, everything is persistent, so for example, if you shoot open an atomic health power-up that can restore full health, but you're already at full health, just leave it be. It'll still be there if you need it later. This applies to virtually every power-up, except the balloons since they fly away. Thirdly, don't rapidly shoot open the power-up boxes unless you know what to expect. The last thing you want to do is shoot open several dynamite boxes and not be able to dodge every explosion. Speaking of the dynamite, if you have enough room to do a full jump, just jump when you reveal some, and you should be safe. Lastly, there's a lot of secrets in this game that can really help you out. Heck, in the second episode, you can get yourself up to full gun power before you even start the third level. Most secrets rely on leaps of faith, precision jumping, or spotting breakable walls that are camouflaged amongst the normal walls. So try all kinds of things to see where you end up. Though if you are finding the game a bit difficult, you can always just cheat by pressing backspace and page down at the same time, though all this does is give you full gun power on all the keys. So yeah, that's the first Duke Nukem game. It's a classic in every sense of the word, and you're not a DOS gaming fan if you haven't played this game at least once. Mind you, it is ultimately a platformer, and not everyone likes platformers, but if you do like platformers and you do like shooting stuff in platformers, then Duke Nukem is definitely a platformer you'll enjoy. I just said platformer like 5 times in the same sentence, didn't I? Let's just get into the Dosbox settings. As you can see, Duke Nukem will run on virtually anything with EGA graphics support, so just keep the cycles set to auto and you won't have any issues. You can run the game with max cycles, but this will unnaturally speed up some of the transitional elements, so I don't recommend doing that. There is also joystick support, and while it doesn't require any special configuration through DOSBox, there's a few things to keep in mind about it. Your joystick configuration is not saved after you quit, so you have to set it up again every time you play. When you do set it up and it asks you whether to make button 1 shoot or jump, you're actually configuring button 2. Lastly, the joystick buttons won't clear away many of the message boxes that come up, so you'll still need to use the keyboard for that. Anywho, that's all for this episode of Ancient DOS Games. Stay tuned for episode 52, where we're going to take a look at a game that features 3 differently numbered campaigns: 0, 17, and 4711. And I'll give you another hint too. It has split-screen cooperative multiplayer. If you think you know what game that is, then send your guess to ADG@pixelships.com and tune in next Saturday to check it out.